Drew, I'll start with you actually. First question here. You talked about your background. I like to hear your background a little bit in fixed wireless broadband. You mentioned Frontera Wireless. What is your background with fixed wireless broadband? When did you start with that? Is there something, a timeline that we can look at?
When I was a young warthog, a long time ago, I was fascinated with microwave. I was fascinated with AM radio. I would stay up late at night and tune in AM radio to see what stations I could find and how far off I could find them. And I would write them down. And, I was always, again, fascinated with wireless. And so a bunch of years back, I'm not even sure which specific year it was, but with some AlohaNet stuff, some some of the old Wave IP, I started messing with wireless to deliver broadband. My background's in building internet service providers with dial-up internet service providers, broadband service providers. And when this whole thing with wireless started to come about, where you could use it for data transfer to connect people to the internet, that's really when I started to get serious about it. Went out and got my amateur radio operator's license, became a certified nerd with a ham call sign, KE5ZJO, just in case anyone is out there. But, I really started to look at what I could do with transmitting data across wireless. And so from a point-to-point perspective, down here in South Texas, again, we've got flat terrain, which was really cool to work with, especially with wireless. And it allowed us to do huge shots. I remember one time doing a 15-mile 2.4 gig shot using 2 Linksys access points and big antennas. And I mean, with point-to-point, I've done a lot either in the carrier space with transmitting either TDM at the time or DS3s, all the way to gigabit. Now doing lots of gigabit microwave, point-to-point, point-to-multipoint microwave. But where I really had a lot of fun, I cut my teeth in the multi-point side, was deploying some of the pre-WiMAX stuff. Right when Canopy was first getting started, deploying lots of Canopy equipment out there, and then going on to work at some different manufacturing and consultancies across the globe to help them figure out how to best deploy point-to-multipoint solutions. So big background in doing this, building wireless internet service providers, building service providers for counties and cities and municipalities. But just love it. I love transmitting data across the airwaves. It's a lot of fun.
Drew, I could see you as a little kid with a little crystal AM radio. Probably bought it on the back of the back page of the comic book.
Radio Shack, sir. Radio Shack.
I was a member of I remember being 10 years old, being the Battery Club member at Radio Shack, and I'd ride my bicycle down there. And the guy hated to see me once a month coming there. I have my free battery card. Yeah. It would take me 6 months to get enough batteries to fill the big flashlight that Radio Shack would give you for free.
I couldn't wait to get that catalog though. I mean, that was my go-to rag, man. Between the Beckett sports card deal and the Radio Shack catalog, man. I mean, that was the cat's meow when I was a kid.
I got it. All right, Gino. So with Aeronet, what's your background, personal background or company background with fixed wireless?
Well, both, and pretty similar to Drew's. My father used to own a two-way radio and paging company, so I grew up kind of in the environment and just working with two-way radios and FM radios, AM radios, CB radios, and stuff like that. So, and also kind of climbing small towers and so it's kind of, I'm pretty familiar with that type of stuff. And then after I went to college, graduation, I married and I had a small enterprise. I helped a friend start a dial-up ISP back in 1996. So I kind of dipped my feet in that kind of knowledge base. And then I moved to a new place, and that place where I moved didn't have any sort of internet connection. So I started to research how can I bring internet connection to my home, and I started to dip into maybe we can do this wirelessly, and start to dig on the internet and start to research and stumble until with some pretty let's say nascent industry where some equipment was being manufactured, but it was pretty expensive. And then there were some options that you could have your own and put some software into, back in the day, it was called Aeronet and a software that you can run on some cards. So, just put the two together, put some equipment together, and was able to beam internet to my home. And by doing that, then all my neighbors wanted it. And then that's basically how the business started. I decided to sell my other business that I was dealing with, a retail cellular store. I was selling cellular phones and pagers, and I decided to sell that and just take on the opportunity and move into providing internet service wirelessly. So, I started as a one-man shop, doing all the installs myself, climbing roofs, putting all the equipment together because, I couldn't afford the high expensive equipment. But maybe I would say like 2 years into that, I realized that if I wanted to grow the company, I need to standardize on some sort of equipment that will allow me to grow and take the advantages of having standardized solutions. So then at that time, that was maybe 2001 and 2002, Motorola Canopy came by. We tried equipment. It was a little bit out of our budget, but we decided to it was the correct decision. And 20 years later, here we are. Still connecting wireless, and as Drew said, just pushing some data wirelessly. So that's we love it too. So,
well, the best businesses are just grown out of just seeing a need and fill the need, and we do have need. We've had need for a long time. It's been 25 plus years. We have a need for broadband access. We need to get data. We need it for data, for interactions with other people. We need it for all sorts of things, education, healthcare. It's just, the list goes on.